Coming up on Mountain News at 6, the Kentucky Wildcats are set to begin their postseason run. We'll have a live report from Nashville. And school choice heads to the November ballot as the Senate approves House Bill 2, sparking debate over charter schools in Kentucky.
Plus, we are mild for the weekend, but a big cool down is looming. Those details coming up as Mountain News at 6 starts now.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 6.
The big day is finally here. The Kentucky Wildcats begin their postseason journey at the SEC tournament in Bridgestone Arena shortly. WYMT's Armando Berry is live in Nashville with our Big Blue coverage. Armando.
Well, we are a little under an hour away from seeing Kentucky take on Texas A&M, and as you can see behind me, Big Blue Nation is flooding in to see those Wildcats. There are people from all across the Bluegrass here to support UK, but one family from Somerset talked with me about how special it is to watch the former North Laurel Jaguar, Reed Shepherd, play on such a huge college basketball team.
I mean, it's special, you know, you go from he's from a small town in London to playing at a big school and following his mom and dad's footsteps. It's crazy for him. I wanted to come watch Reed because I didn't know if it'd be his last year before he goes pro or not.
From the fans to the opponents, everyone knows this Kentucky kid, and rightfully so. Reed's game has done all the talking is needed. I'll preview tonight's matchup later in sports. Steve, back to you.
All right, Armando, thank you very much. If the Cats win tonight, they will face either Florida or Alabama tomorrow in the semifinals. Well, Kentucky's online sports betting went live this past September, meaning this is the first March college basketball tournament season with Kentuckians having the option to legally bet online. Jessica Umbro talked to those at the Red Mile Gaming Center in Lexington who are excited about this added layer to the tournament season.
Sports betting hasn't been in the Bluegrass for long, but some say they're happy they can stay local to place their bets this March Madness.
I like to be part of it. I won last weekend with them against Tennessee, so I'm not betting a lot, but hoping for a win.
In Kentucky, where college basketball reigns supreme.
Well, Central Kentuckians, this is the time of year we live for. I mean, it's go time.
Some say being able to bet on the college level games will benefit the program.
I think it's just added a different element. You know, it's a great atmosphere.
I think it's cool. It's good for the sport. It's good for the college scene. It gives them more fans that don't really watch them. Now we got to watch them to see what we want to bet on next.
Kentucky was one of the later states to allow sports betting, and sports bettors inside tell me that they're relieved that they don't have to travel in order to place their bets.
I don't have to travel to Belterra, which I was doing occasionally, so this is close. I'm from Frankfort, so it's very nice.
I'm sure glad I don't have to drive to Indiana anymore. This makes it a lot easier.
And while sports betting can add an extra layer of excitement to watching the big game, it's also important to be cautious and to find a balance.
I just hope people don't risk money they don't have, but you know, you can bet a little bit and enjoy the game, and makes it a little more enjoyable, especially when you win.
In Lexington, Jessica Umbro, WKYT.
In Madison County, a man is accused of brake checking a school bus. Deputies say Noah Davenport suddenly stopped in front of the bus last month on I-75. There were children on board. Along with getting statements about the incident, officials also looked at video and audio from the bus. Davenport is facing 19 counts of wanton endangerment. Yesterday, a school bus and a motorcycle collided in Perry County. State police confirmed 33 students were on the bus when the crash happened at the intersection of Kentucky 15 and Kentucky 28. Police said the bus was coming from A.B. Combs, but the students on board were from Buckhorn. The person on the motorcycle was flown to a hospital. With yesterday's crash, it's a reminder to keep an eye out for your surroundings and to keep your focus on the road. WYMT's R.J. Johnson spoke with Kentucky State Police on how all drivers can look out for one another on the roads.
There are still several things police are working to investigate after a school bus and motorcycle crashed on Thursday.
As far as right now, that's still being put together. It's being reconstructed by our recon team here at Post. So the actual cause of the collision and the manner in which it took place will be figured out here hopefully before too long.
Kentucky State Police Trooper Matt Gayhart says with warmer weather, more people are out on the roads riding motorcycles.
So we encourage everybody to take just the extra second to make sure they visually check intersections before pulling into them. All winter long, we're used to looking for vehicles, which are much larger, but we need to take that extra time to make sure we're checking for those motorcyclists as well.
He says with a lot of collisions being caused by distracted drivers, it is important to pay attention at all times.
Majority of our crashes we see inattention or distracted driving playing a factor in them. Again, we encourage everybody to make sure that they put their phones down and they're focusing on what the task at hand, and that's driving.
Gayhart says it is also important that those riding motorcycles also remain safe and aware.
Yeah, we encourage motorcyclists to first dress in clothing that makes them visible to other drivers, as well as make sure they're wearing all their protective gear, dressing for the ride, and also wearing their helmets as well. Something else that they can do is ensure that all their lighting is working properly on their motorcycle so they are more visible.
In Hazard, RJ Johnson, WYMT Mountain News.
Gayhart says with those on motorcycles being more at risk, it's important to always be vigilant of those behind you. We did receive a statement from Perry County School Superintendent Kent Campbell about yesterday's crash. It says, quote, "Thankfully, we had no injuries to our students or driver. Our thoughts and prayers are with the other driver involved in the accident. The response from emergency personnel was quick and effective, and I appreciate their efforts. This morning, we directed counselors to the school to assist students that were involved in the accident."
We're tracking a little bit of wet weather on this Friday evening, especially close to the Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia borders. Zooming into Pike County, a few heavier showers just to the south of downtown Pikeville. Also moving into portions of Buchanan County at this hour. And same story for southeast Kentucky from Whitesburg and Letcher County, moving into Harlan County. Also for portions of Knox and Bell counties at this hour. This is all thanks to a cold front that continues to sit over our region. Now, once this system passes behind this, we are tracking some cooler and drier air, and that drier air will continue pushing off into our direction as we go into this evening. Those current temperatures, most of us in the 60s, but notice north of that front a little bit cooler in Lexington, also in Moorhead, down into the lower 50s, but most of us right now in the middle to even upper 60s in some areas. Lows as you wake up in the morning are cooler thanks to that cold front. Most of us wake up in the lower 40s, more 60s on the way tomorrow. Enjoy it though, because highs top out in the 40s by next Monday. Those details coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
Cameron, thank you. The General Assembly is working to pass high-profile bills in the final days of this year's legislative session. School choice was on the agenda in the state Senate today. It would place the issue of public funding for private schools before voters. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more on the debate in the state Senate today.
Kentucky voters will now have a question on their ballot about school choice.
This gives parents the right to choose a school. It's not a controlling bill.
I worry, Mr. President, that we are so desperate to pass this amendment and give money to private schools to take it away from our public schools that we are risking shredding the Kentucky Constitution to make that happen.
After passing the House, the Kentucky Senate took up the issue Friday, and after an hour of debate approved it 27-8, effectively sending the issue to be decided by voters. Some Kentucky lawmakers voted for this bill, not because they said they were for school choice or against it. They said simply they want the people of Kentucky to decide this issue.
I cast an aye vote in support of the process, the constitutional process required by law.
If voters approve it, the General Assembly will have the ability to provide public money to private schools. Supporters say dozens of other states allow this already, and it really helps the financially challenged.
But maybe when some members are there, they could have the opportunity to visit one of California's 1,300 charter schools, serving almost 630,000 students. Around 11% of all K through 12 students.
But many Democrats still oppose the bill, saying the legislature is ignoring public education.
Who are more anxious to figure out how to exclude people from our community.
Republicans counter in saying that a big chunk of the recently approved Senate budget is spent toward public education. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, WYMT Mountain News.
School choice issues were already approved by the legislature, but were struck down by the Kentucky Supreme Court, thus the need for voters to decide. If you would like to read the entire question that will be on the ballot, you can see that on WYMT.com. Yesterday, we told you about Governor Andy Beshear announcing more than 30 projects receiving funding, which will be used to improve parks and recreation spaces. Today, we learned some of those projects are here in the mountains. Here's a few of them. More than $27,000 will be used for renovations to the Beach Creek Campground in Manchester. New basketball goals will be installed along with playground equipment being upgraded. The city of Paintsville is getting nearly $250,000 to demolish its existing public pool and construct a splash pad at the site. And the Owsley County Fiscal Court will use about $85,000 to build a splash park and walking track in Booneville. A broadband update and listening session is being held in eastern Kentucky on March 27th. The Center for Rural Development and Kentucky Office of Broadband Development will hold the meeting at the Clay County Community Center in Manchester at 1:30 that day. In part of a statement, President of the Center for Rural Development, Lonnie Lawson, says they want to listen to the concerns and broadband needs that those in the community may have. Earlier at 4, we told you about the funeral arrangements for an Elliott County firefighter who died in the line of duty, Roy Franklin Witt. A short time ago, Governor Andy Beshear's office announced flags at state buildings will be lowered to half staff on Monday to honor Witt. The flags will be lowered from sunrise to sunset. Witt died earlier this week after sustaining injuries from a crash. He was 72 years old.
We are tracking some more showers as we go into this evening, but a drier weekend is ahead. Those details coming up. Plus,
one program brings its services to one eastern Kentucky county to help train the incoming police pause.